Welcome to Expedient Means with Lin A. Wei on Time Monk Radio. Lin currently resides in China and is the founder and head teacher of Guizhen Philocultural Society. He has extensive experience in Buddhist and Taoist meditation, Qigong, martial arts, and traditional Chinese medicine. To learn more about Lin, please visit his website at www.guizhenhui.net. Tonight, Lin will be speaking about the Tao Te Ching. Welcome back, Lin.
Hey there, hey there.
So tonight we're gonna try and tackle some of the chapters of the Tao Te Ching. In the short time we have, we obviously can't do the entire Tao Te Ching, or we would just be sitting there reading it. But we can sort of dissect some chapters as we go and try and get to the deeper meaning.
Right, we're gonna try to go from chapters 1 through 10 in this sitting.
Okay.
Okay.
And you're gonna.
Yeah, we'll lay it out with you can read out each chapter, the first chapter, and then we'll speak on the first chapter, and then go on to the second chapter and whatnot.
Okay. Did you want to do the reading?
No.
You're gonna throw that one at me. Okay.
You can work on
All
that.
right. So I should mention too, for anybody listening, there's literally hundreds of different translations of the Tao Te Ching. Some are better than others. The one I recommended for tonight is actually translated by Derek Lin, who was a Taoist writer, and he actually has some knowledge of the Chinese context, and it's maybe not as flowery as some of the more poetic versions, but he tried to capture the meaning as best he could, and being a native Chinese, I think he brought a lot to the project. So anybody who wants to follow, just go to www.taoism.net /TTC/complete.htm, and you can follow along. So let's start with chapter 1.
Sounds good.
You ready?
Let's go.
Okay. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the origin of heaven and earth. The named is a mother of myriad things. Thus, constantly without desire, one observes its essence. Constantly with desire, one observes its manifestations. These two emerge together but differ in name. The unity is said to be the mystery of mysteries, the door to all wonders. So what are your thoughts on the meaning of the first chapter?
Well, in this commentaries that we're going to do on the Tao Te Ching, we're going to go from, some will have to go from line to line, some I can go from several lines together that comprise a whole specific idea. Okay,
Sure.
So let's look first at the first line. Okay, Tao that can be talked about, Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. Even though the use of the word Tao, is fixing a mark on that which is, neither coming nor going. Thus, I'm going to use the language that I'm used to, which is the Buddhist language, or the Buddhist way of explaining, which is not an end-all be-all mannerism. It's just something I'm used to. So I'm going to also say those specific words, but I'm also going to put words that most people are familiar with. So we're going to see the way it's going to work together. So the word Tao itself is just saying the word Tao itself to this specific manner of cultivation in general. It's pointing to the thus nature, that overall non-discriminative nature that's all compassionate, all encompassing. Okay, it's like what is that which is thus? Like what is it? It's our true nature. It's not coming or going. It doesn't reside and it doesn't not reside. There's no duality here. The manner in which is spoken of in this first line refers to that which neither comes nor goes, right? To give a mark, a label, it's a view on that which never moves and is never still. Okay, because it causes one to create endless thoughts, thinking, oh, okay, this is the Tao, I'm going to focus, practice the Tao. What is the Tao? And then you go into this direction, figuring what it is, and you go into the other direction, figuring what it is. This leads to afflictions and covers the original nature. It's just constant thinking. Okay, it just makes one more diluted. Just putting more thoughts on top of thoughts on top of thoughts. This is why Lao Tzu spoke in the first line. It said, it was to direct people for cultivating, to let go of the views, drop the views, and that original way, that original nature is revealed. That true way, that true Tao, you will be able to see it or feel it or experience it or have that realization of it. We're going
Yeah,
to
and the first line is the one that you hear quoted all the time. So,
right.
some people I think get the wrong impression of that and think, well, if the Tao that is spoken is not the eternal Tao, then anybody who talks about Taoism doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So it's like if that was the case, Lao Tzu wouldn't even write anything. Just be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
screw you all, and good luck. You know?
I think from my perspective, all it means is that language by its very nature is limiting, and to try and touch, you can't really convey the true essence of the Tao merely through spoken word. You almost have to experience it.
Right. The spoken word would be the expedient one uses for contemplative practice, and then when it comes down to a specific state of that practice, you'll have to let it go, and then
Right.
be without discrimination. So, let's go to the next line. Names can be named, but not the eternal name. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. This line points to the same result of no view. Using the word eternal is hinting to the cultivator that one's original nature neither lives nor dies. Okay, the Tao, it doesn't die. Something that is eternal is ever living, and therefore, if something is ever living, it's never dying. So that's what we have to realize here. With this, we will realize that there's no life and there is no death. Obviously, said the same thing in 3 sentences. Lao Tzu is pointing directly to the function of mind, where once there is a view, there is a covering of the original nature. He uses the word Tao to point to the function of the original nature, which is the manifesting of anything that is thought of. So basically, it's like you have this pure pond, and then there's nothing in the pond except the pond, like it's water or whatever. Then you throw a little piece of a rock in there. Now you have a rock in the water. Okay, and over time the rock gets worn down, or it gets tempered or whatnot by that water. So it becomes as though a product of that water almost. So it's like how do we say? If you think of it this way, it's like you will come to a realization that there's no life, there's no death, and that the use of the word is just letting you know that everything is within this Tao. Okay, it's in it. Okay, to think there is a mind is also to hold a view of separation. So it's like I realized the Tao. Now you're holding a mind. There's an I, and there's a realization, and there's something that is being realized, and there's someone that has been realizing it. So it's creating all these heads on top of heads, kind of blocking. Let's see. Let's go a little further here. The nameless is the origin of heaven and earth, right? The named is the mother of myriad things. As the mother of all things, it is nameable, right? So we're saying because of the function of the original nature, anything thought of becomes manifest. So once a view, a feeling, an emotion is entertained, one will face the ups and downs of that which comes and goes. So what comes and goes, right? Thoughts, emotions, views, desire. Lao Tzu is pointing to the idea that if one is to name it, you can call it that which all things are born from, a mother, right? A source. Since there's a labeling, there's a birth and death of that idea. So he's pointing out this type of relativity. Call it what you wish. It's a function of, its function is what is covered in the labeling. So we should look at the essence means that we don't get caught up chasing the experiences of that which you label, right? And that which you create with your ideas. It's like chasing after things, attaching to them only causes more views to manifest. So he's saying, drop this all. The line directly points, it's like it directs one to be still and see the essence of the function of the original nature. It's like see that original face, see the Tao, enter that state of stillness without discrimination.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Oh, good.
I'm just teasing. I know it's very profound.
Thus, constantly without desire, one observes its essence. Constantly with desire, one observes its manifestations. These two emerge together but differ in name. The unity is said to be the mystery of mysteries, the door to all wonders. Oh, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
So basically, the original nature, it never comes and goes. The Tao is thus, it's always there. It doesn't need to manifest. That which is coming and then disappears, that which is going, it doesn't need to do all that. It's just that way. So it's like what we're thinking of views. We hold to what we think of, and then we want to observe without a view. So no discriminating thoughts about what we are doing here. Observe the manifest to understand what you are attaching the mind to, and then drop it to see the essence of it. Okay, the last four, this whole piece right here, is talking on the non-dual nature of that which is manifest. It's saying that everything, these things, they all come from the same source, this original source, this Tao. Therefore, if they come from the same source, there's no different. We consider things different because the way they appear. That's because of our senses, right? So
Would that be in reference to the line, constantly with desire, one observes its manifestations?
very good. You see, when we are attached to things, it could be desire for sex, it could be desire for drinks, it could be desire for anything. We are seeing the way things are as, but they're not exactly that way. It's like, I'm just thirsty, so I'm just going to drink. But if you're like, oh my God, I'm so thirsty, but I want to have something really nice to drink. So the thirst, the original feeling of thirst, okay, is there, but we're not seeing that anymore. We're seeing what we would delight in. So we're really covering up the original way of how things would be manifest, and we're adding more to it. And so he's basically saying, drop all these types of discriminating ideas. He's on one hand, we're talking on the way things revolve, the yin and the yang, and then on the other hand, he's like, yeah, but that's not the end all be all. That's just the way things show up to be.
Yeah, again, the desire part just always kind of jumps out at me and sort of, again, would point to the discriminating mind, as you said. Okay, should we move on to chapter?
Yeah, we can move on. I mean, I can say a little bit more about it, but I think the idea is there. Yeah, we can move on to the next one. So basically, for this first chapter, he's just is pointing the cultivator to see the original nature by cultivating non-duality. He's saying there are these things, and then, but there are these things there that are taken. You are taken by them with your senses. Chop that out.
Yeah, and again, like I hate to keep saying it, but we're only just scratching the surface. Thing about the Tao Te Ching is it's not very long and it's not very wordy, but that's sort of gets to the root of what, the root of Taoism. And, in these small amount of words, there's really a lot of knowledge being conveyed. Okay, so I'm going to start on chapter 2, or as we say in French, chapter 2.
Very good.
When the world knows beauty is beauty, ugliness arises. When it knows good is good, evil arises. Thus being and non-being produce each other. Difficult and easy bring about each other. Long and short reveal each other. High and low support each other. Music and voice harmonize each other. Front and back follow each other. Therefore the sages manage the work of detached actions, conduct the teaching of no words. They work with myriad things but do not control. They create but do not possess. They act but do not presume. They succeed but do not dwell on success. It is because they do not dwell on success that it never goes away.
Fun. Excellent. So let's go on. When all the world know beauty is beauty, ugliness arises. It's like that itself is ugliness, right? When it knows good is good, evil arises. So it's like that itself is evil. It's a very great teaching. I mean, every sentence in Tao Te Ching just points directly to afflictions and how to relieve the mind of it. Who has eyes to see that? Who has ears to hear that? You have to see the capacity. Who has the capacity to put it down?
In that first line, it almost points to, as soon as you discriminate, you automatically bring about the opposite, right? Like the opposite is almost contained within it.
Yeah, basically. It's like, watch your mind. You know, the first two sentences speak on the problem of separation. You know, when one labels something, they see it apart and create the views of others. Discriminating on things cover the natures of all things, you know, and results in diluted thinking. So when one makes a distinction, it becomes like a mindset of superiority in the perception of two separate things. So in this case, these two sentences direct the cultivator to understand that the discriminating mind is that of separation in views, and to uphold such is to plant the seeds of more confusion about the true nature, about Tao. It is saying, you know, to not look with the views of separation, to stop discriminating, and you will see the true nature. You will enter the Tao. You know, you'll realize that inherent wisdom. If you could just do that, you know. So let's go on further.
Okay.
The next part goes even further into the function of views and separation. Thus, being and non-being produce each other. Difficult and easy bring about each other. You know, long and short reveal each other. High and low support each other. Music and voice harmonize each other. Front and back follow each other. That's just a pretty nice. It's not enough that we have attachments to views we dilute our mind with, but we also attach to their process of, you know, their highs and lows, the ebbs and waves, and we call that the way of all things. It's the ebb and flows. I just go with the flow. You know, I'll go with the flow. When I go up, I go up, and that's cool. When I go down, I really go down. But why would you want to do that? I mean, that's the relative. It's like the relative flow, the relative expression of things that rise and fall, that have no origin, so to say. They're part of conditions. Things are created because of something else, and something else creates that something else too. So all these things have some type of cause and condition, which is it's originless. Yeah? The rising and falling of things in the mind is not the Tao. It's the process of that which we hold views of, and the holding of views. Okay, so we go on. Just don't get caught up in what is you know, hidden and manifest. You know, what we cannot see, and then what we can see. Those are not really important. You got to look at the process. You know, they give birth to each other, they create each other, or whatnot. You know, the process says that as long as we hold onto views of a birth and death, a me and a you, there will be the yin and the yang, the hot and the cold, man and the woman, hidden and present. All these, you know, we're going further now into the rest of the lines. You know, they're talking about the process of the outcome of holding onto views, which results in separation, and assuring the cultivator that it is true indeed that one will create two. Just as long as you hold the views of there being a one, there will be a two, and a three, and the rest. It'll just keep going on and on and on. Yeah, it's like being mindful isn't about how much you can do with your mind and do it well. You know, like driving a car, talking on the phone at the same time, changing a radio station. If you like putting on lipstick, you know, that too, while driving a car. It's not that is mindful. That is scattered. You know, the last lines is like not looking for rewards. You know, not being selfless. So we're going further down. You know, the sage goes about his business without worries, attachments, expectations of something that will not happen, or a thought, or of a hopeful thought. He doesn't go attached to those things. It's saying stop false thinking, stop daydreaming, stop holding on to your memories, like attaching to them with emotions and whatnot. Stop these thoughts of wanting things that keep you fixed in contemplation and only serve your scattered mind.
Yeah, I love that last line too. It is because they do not dwell on success that it never goes away.
Right.
You know, basically, they're not craving it, so they achieve it. I
Right.
guess.
Right, and don't dwell. You know, the do not dwell means like to realize there is nothing that is worth doing and nothing that is not worth doing. There's no place to dwell. There is no dweller. That's why the sage is free. Free.
Yeah. Again, some of these verses. I mean, there is always a danger that people could misapply what the teachings are saying. And
It's always good to have a teacher.
Yeah, because I mean, you could look at that and say, well, they don't dwell on success, you know, so they basically just don't do anything, and who cares, right? You know, like you could have read it from an apathetic point of view. I mean, hopefully not, but you could see how some people have, right?
pretty much. Let's go on. Chapter 3.
Alrighty.
Chapter 3.
Take a deep breath. And, okay. Do not glorify the achievers, so that people will not squabble. Do not treasure goods that are hard to obtain, so that people will not become thieves. Do not show the desired things, so their hearts will not be confused. Thus the governance of the sage empties their hearts, fills their bellies, weakens their ambitions, strengthens their bones. Let the people have no cunning and no greed, so those who scheme will not dare to meddle. Act without contrivance, and nothing will be beyond control.
The first 3 sentences are very simple, and many have some have confused them in the past when explaining them. It basically means end competition. The competitive mind only breeds ego, which gives rise to separatism, superiority. So these things cover the true nature and cause one to become further diluted. So it's like, I want to cultivate the Tao, but I want to go win this race and screw everybody who's in front of me. I'm going to trip them. I'm going to push them out of the way. That's not really the way. The way is ever giving. Give selflessly. Doesn't matter what color you are or who you are or how you are. It just gives. We all are breathing. Don't breathe less or more.
We should maybe make some of the central bankers read this this part.
Uh-oh. Well, think of this. Having a competitive mind, it causes unrest that makes people, uneasy. People then occupy their time with competition, hoping to become number one and hold a high title. It only lasts as long as the people keep themselves entertained by it. It's competition.
Not only that, but it's never enough. If they want $1 million, they get $1 million, and all of a sudden they need 2 million. They get 2 million, then they need 10 million, right? It just never ends.
Right. So these sentences, they're plainly directing the cultivator to drop views of competition, separation, basically. We go on further. Let's see. So the people will not become thieves. Do not show the desired things, so their hearts will not be confused. It places in front of us, that we hold on to things with the tightest grip, that even at the time of death we can't let go. You're not bringing your TV, your radio, significant other, or whoever when you die, right? You're not taking them with you. Truth, it's like, come on, my love, come with me 6 feet under and hang out with me while I'm dead and you die soon.
I think some of the emperors did do that, though, didn't they? Brought their concubines and...
Yeah, because they didn't want to ruin the virtue or the honor and the face of the emperor, saying those wives, once the husband was dead, can go out and be with other men. And once you're married to the emperor, that's it. The emperor, if you got married today, well, not you, but generally the emperor, you got married today and the emperor dies tomorrow, you're screwed.
It's a pretty good gig as long as it lasts.
Pretty much. It's pretty much like you could say that would be a situation that's the epitome of of the rise and fall of the yin and yang. I got married to the emperor, I'm rich, I can do whatever, relax for the rest of my life, I'm totally rich. And the next day, it's like, the emperor didn't wake up this morning. He's dead. Here's the special wine. Have fun. And you're like, oh, my God, I don't want to do this. I just became the most wealthiest person in the country. I'm so young. I'm 20. I'm 14. I'm 15. Why am I going to kill myself now? It's the epitome of putting down attachments of a self. It's just craziness. But nothing is truly ours. That's what it's saying. These things here, these sentences here. And it's like, I bought it. It's my money, so it's mine. I bought it with my money. It's mine till I throw it away or I give it away or I'm dead. Yeah, you bought it in your mind. There was a you that thought there was something to buy. Money didn't come from you. It was printed by It was printed by it was paper that's printed by a government or printed by some minting, whatever process it is. I don't know much about politics in that area, economics and whatever. But then it passes through banks, businesses, then to workers. The money is only borrowed, so it already points to the impermanence of things we think we own. So even money is an expedient means, letting us know that it passes. It's not permanent, and that our attachment to success is dependent upon how much money we have. And it shows us that the attachment to success itself, and even the quote unquote supposed success of having so much money, is still temporary, because money is money is just a temporary fix. So being successful by having so much money you have is really skating on thin ice.
And money itself is such an illusionary phenomena.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's really the inherent value is just because we perceive it as valuable. I mean, in and of itself, there really is no value to it.
Right. So, like the governance of the sage. Let's see, what do we have here? Thus, the governance of the sage empties their hearts, fills their bellies, weakens their ambitions, strengthens their bones.
I'd say that that's just sort of pointing to wise rulership, right?
Pretty much, putting down desires to keep the mind at ease. Desires, when desires a little, false thinking lessens. Then there is less stress in one's life. You eat when you're hungry, not when you eat, not when you think to eat, or you see food. I have a seafood diet. When I see food, I eat it. Some people, you're filling the belly. It's pointing to like when you're actually hungry, you just eat. Not when there's just a little bit of hunger pain. Not when there's just a little bit of that desire.
Now, some of these verses in the Tao Te Ching, they could also have like sort of an esoteric meaning too, if you were a cultivator, right? Like the filling of the belly, you could see that as sort of filling the Donchen with qi, right?
Sure, and actually, you're bringing that up. When we go a little further, it gets a little bit more obvious about the mannerism of cultivation. And the further chapters further on even gets even more obvious than just now. So yeah, we can take it as this sentence too as meaning, or that section, cultivating the Dantian, cultivating energy, running after or grasping after feelings or states of power. But we can keep it a little bit more simple and show that it's a mannerism on how to interact with oneself or others in that, just for the sake of saying. It's basically saying enough. There's an enough principle. You have enough, that's it. When you're hungry, you eat. When you're thirsty, you drink. Just enough to nourish. Don't overstuff yourself. Don't chase over specific foods. If proper eating habits are necessary, then you do it. Like if you really need specific things to nourish your body, then you go for it. Not, I'm going to have this and I'm going to have that because this has this protein and that has this minerals and vitamins. Those are healthy to do. And if that's your lifestyle, then that's the way it is for you. But if it's not your lifestyle and you go, I heard I need this, let me go take it. And then you go crazy when you can't find it. Or you only do it for a short period of time. And it's like, I've been there, done that. And it's just a waste. So let's go to the very last sentence. Let's see. Let's go further down. Because this part, I included that let the people have no cunning and no greed. So those who scheme will not dare to meddle. It's just like everyone has enough. Everyone is not equal, but they have enough. They understand what it is to be enough, to be with
right.
Enough. Go to the last act. Without contrivance, and nothing will be beyond control. It just, how do I say? Act without contrivance, and nothing will be beyond control. Basically, just not let things be, but don't go, how do I say, crazy for things. Don't make people have, what's the word here? I'm losing my English, basically. So, give me a moment to get my English together.
Well,
don't try to have just a control over everything. Also, don't just fix for one specific thing. Let things be very. Fitting. Try to formulate things to be fitting for everybody, for everything.
I think in the line before, the word scheme is a good word, the scheming mind, because, That really is what a lot of our false thinking arises from, is
Agreed.
just, our minds scheming things all the time, right? Or our ego scheming.
We're always scheming, try to make ourselves be better than others, climbing on conditions. Oh, this person has something. Let me use what they have, use them to get myself above them, and then push them aside when they're offering me help to let me become, successful or well-to-do. Then I leave them in the dust when I'm way over them, or in a position of supposed self-believing authority. You believe yourself to be in another authority, and you just go out to push your views and your ideas on those who cannot say are very successful or are just doing very well, and you try to bring them down or try to cause them to have problems. So it's kind of like, stop doing that. Stop scheming. It's not helpful to people, and not even to oneself. It just is like putting a mirror up to oneself going, this is what you do. When someone does it to you, you just get totally angry and flipped out about it. And you can't even take one's own medicine. One cannot take their own medicine. It's like, just stop put down these ego, put down this desire. It's like, stop scheming when one has enough, you understand. But when you have enough and then you're like, oh, I want a little bit more. That's why we say sometimes, ambition, to be ambitious is not too healthy, because it overtakes the mind. You get somewhat stable, then you want to go even higher, but you grasp, you go grasping for it with ego, with disregard for everyone else, and even one's own sanity. It causes more problems.
All right, should we move on to chapter 4?
And we move on.
All right. The Tao is empty. When utilized, it is not filled up. So deep, it seems to be the source of all things. It blunts the sharpness, unravels the knots, dims the glare, mixes the dusts. So indistinct, it seems to exist. I do not know whose offspring it is. Its image is the predecessor of the Emperor. And I'm assuming that last line, they're referring to the Jade Emperor?
Emperor generally could be the Jade Emperor as well. We're going to see. It could be twofold. Let's check it out. Here it's like the first few sentences here are talking about emptiness. Emptiness, the void. It embraces all things, even in itself. So if it's embracing itself, meaning it doesn't have to have the action of embracing itself, it's just the way it is, then there really is no emptiness, no void. And still, there is that which all things reside in, and there is no residing whatsoever of all things. So it's like, you could say it's like an empty bowl, okay? And so it's like pointing to it being unfathomable depths of our original nature. It's that our original nature of the Tao, that purity, is all pervasive, pervading all directions. So then there's no directions. If it's everywhere, then there's no distinction of an up or a down or left or right or whatnot. It's already there. Cut out distinction. Cut out this discriminating thinking. It's just this full out, overall, encompassing thing. It's, okay. It's everlasting. It's endless, so it's never dying. So neither dying nor living, that kind of duality just disappears. So Tao not only is a word labeling for the way, it's also pointing to that which can never be filled, comprehended intellectually in its completeness. You can think, I got the idea, I know this, and I know that, and I know this about the Tao, and the Tao Te Ching this, and whatever. And it's intellectual knowledge, whereas the cultivated, contemplated knowledge.
Almost like a bottomless lake that, you can always draw water from.
Yeah. Right. So deep it seems to be the source of all things. It refers to that which is never born, never coming, never going, giving rise to all things of creation, but not one of them has been created. For something to be of that which never dies, that thing never dies as well. Therefore, it was never created. So the origin, the original way of all things, is not even a place of an origin of another thing than itself. It is just of itself. Meaning the origin of all things is just that, its own beginning and ending, with nothing beginning and nothing ending. Anything arising within is only seen as arising within, but nothing is actually arising. And there is no without for there to be a within. All of it is simply just this thusness, The Tao is all pervasive. That thusness, neither coming nor going. It's just ooh.
It gets very philosophical and
It
metaphysical.
does, and it requires the cultivation. You have to sit in meditation. You have to go through the states to realize certain things, and then go, "Oh, I got it." You know, it blunts the sharpness, unravels the knots, dims the glare, mixes the dust. It blunts all sharp edges. It cannot be destroyed because it is not a thing. It unravels all knots. There is nothing that is actually tangled, except the confused mind. When the mind is free of ignorant attachments, all things are easily understood, and obstacles are cleared. Just like when ropes get all tangled within themselves, and one sits for hours looking for the one part that will untangle them all. It's referring to the mind. If the mind is clear, calm, and without discrimination, the proper method always reveals itself. Dims the glare, mixes the dust. All that we see is not only because of light, but because of our views of mind. So the dust is like a darkness, okay? Well, let's say dust and darkness could go together, because when there's dust, it covers. Let's say you have a flashlight and you have dust on top of the flashlight. That light is not as bright. And when you wipe it clean, the bright light shows out again, right? So say the dust or darkness is also without light, but we can see it. So we must ask, what is actually seeing? So this is referring to the aspect of seeing. It dims the glare, mixes the dust. It's saying you're covering the brightness of your true mind. The Tao is so bright, it's all pervasive. It's our original way, our original nature. You're covering it up with all these false thoughts, all the dust of all these things, Wipe it clean a little bit.
I'd be curious to look at some of the other translations. Just the term mixes the dust. I wonder if settles the dust might not be a better.
Some translation will call that sentence like it harmonizes all lights.
Okay.
Unties the world into one whole. Stuff like that. I remember some translations. So when there's no view, there's no separation. No separation. All things are united. Which is the last part of the passage. The other part of the passage here, where mixes the dust, saying that all these things, they're all really one piece. So indistinct it seems to exist, I do not know whose offspring it is. Its image is a predecessor of the emperor. It speaks directly to it being subtle when thought of, almost like being at a loss for words, so indistinct. Basically it's stating that which is the source, quote unquote source, okay, of all things is covered by false thoughts or the discriminating mind. Thus it appears to be a subtle existence or subtle expression. That overall Tao, that feeling of being, quote unquote, in the oneness of all that is, okay, or the quote unquote is. I'm just using these words as a way to put a focus on the point here. So when he says that not knowing the offspring, it doesn't mean Lao Tzu is speaking of the parent of this source or the source of this source. He's saying that there is no source of this source, but the following line, its image is a predecessor of the emperor, could mean that this source is righteous, upright, and virtuous, just as an emperor would be in the old days. He's speaking of the original nature of all things, like that to be an emperor in the old days, you had to have some type of substance. You had to have some knowledge, some wisdom in the very old days. And you had to have some type of virtue, be righteous. People support you. People want you to rule with them or rule over them. And it's that upright mannerism, that upright expression, which the way or the Tao or that original nature radiates, puts out.
Pretty much the exact opposite of the leadership we have today.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
I was just thinking my comment when I first read it about the Jade Emperor, in the Chinese pantheon, obviously the Jade Emperor is like the supreme immortal, right? So I sort of read that as the Tao existed even before the Jade Emperor.
Well, to think the Jade Emperor, to be in his position, he has to have virtue. He has to have merit and virtue. He has to have wisdom, and he has to have some type of cultivation. His desires, he still has them, but he's not as heavy. It's not as heavy as us. That state of where the Jade Emperor is, okay, and that desire of heaven, it's a little lighter than our human desires, the desires of us on this realm, but they still have desire. So here, people can't go maybe 3 days or 4 days without sex, but up there in the desire heavens and the heaven of 33, where Jade Emperor is hanging out and doing his thing, probably what we would consider once a year or twice a year, that there is this feeling for sexual desire. Okay, so you need some cultivation and you need to move up a little bit on there. You can't just attach, not you, I'm saying generally, a lot of cultivators are like, well, I don't want to have any rules. I don't want to go by the rules. Taoism doesn't have any rules. Actually, nature does have rules. Nature, the way is expressed in how things are in nature. But if you're going to look at an animal and think that is expressing the original way of things, the true nature of things, or the way of heaven, that animal world and the insect world are doing that. Actually, that's not true either. A lot of people like to look at the animal world and say, "Oh, a lion chases the weaker, or a weaker animal and eats it." So, the more stronger survive. So we have to be like a lion. But why do you want to imitate animals? I mean, why? They are not depicting the higher way. They're still on their karmic level of vibration. They're still going through their karma. They just don't have the thinking mind we do. They just go off of their karmic instinct, their conditioned instinct. When they're hungry, they eat. I've heard stories of tigers or lions walking into a temple, being hungry and not hurting the monks there. They'll sit there all day long when the monks do their thing, do their ceremonies, do their meditation, do their practices, do their cleaning of the temple, whatnot, not hurt one soul, not hurt one person. When it's hungry, it leaves. It goes out and eats whatever animal it finds, comes back and goes back to sleep, or goes and sits down or walks around the temple. Doesn't hurt anybody. So you see, the karmic nature, or the level of vibration of one's karma, will manifest as the way they're going to instinctually do things or respond to things. So their senses tell them.
I'm thinking the tiger would eat me if I was there, but
the tiger feels hungry. Usually, a tiger would go out and run after anything that's moving, or anything that is in its that fits its palate. But when the tiger or an animal or any living being has some sense of cultivation, has a little bit of wisdom, they don't ultimately fall subject to their conditioned instincts from their level of vibration or their karmic vibration. Not all. Some, but not all. It happens.
Okay. Let's move along to chapter 5.
This is a long one, because this is commentary we do and an explanation. So it's a little longer show than most of our shows.
Yeah, well, and again, as I said at the outset, the words in the Tao Te Ching are simple but profound at the same time, right?
Right.
Okay, so chapter 5. Heaven and earth are impartial. They regard the myriad things as straw dogs. The sages are impartial. They regard people as straw dogs. The space between heaven and earth is it not like a bellows? Empty and yet never exhausted, it moves and produces more. Too many words hasten failure, cannot compare to keeping to the void.
Ooh, yummy. This one is very fun. A lot of people discuss this one, and I hear a lot of chatter about it. The first few parts, heaven and earth are impartial. They regard myriad things as straw dogs. Sages are impartial. They regard people as straw dogs. One of the most misunderstood parts of this piece, actually, heaven and earth are impartial means they do not discriminate on anyone, any living thing. They regard myriad things as straw dogs means that all living things are equal, not one thing is seen as superior to another. Sages are impartial. Sages follow the way of the Jade Emperor's heaven. This is the way of heaven. Jade Emperor's heaven, right? Okay. Being equal and righteous to all living things. Thus, they do not view any one person as more superior than another. Hence the term straw dogs, meaning that all things are passing. Like clouds in the sky, they are not permanent. Straw itself can burn to a crisp. You light up a fire, strike a match, throw it on some straw, and boom, it burns up. And thus, this line is stating that sages of the proper way do not attach themselves to people. They view every living thing as empty, not useless, but not in need to attach to. A good example would be Maitreya Buddha manifesting as the cloth bag monk in China. In one of his songs, one of his stanzas he wrote was a song. They call it a song, a poem, that goes like, I don't remember all of it. It's a little long. I never tried to memorize it, but I've read it a few times. And basically, it's like, you can punch me, you can spit on me, and I'll lie in the sun and let the spit dry. You can punch me, and I'll lie there on the floor smiling away as though nothing actually hit me. Because there's nothing. He's saying that there's no one that got hit, and there's no one doing the hitting. Where's the separation here? That's what they're saying. That these things aren't real. They're fake. They're not real. Let's
Yeah,
go.
I'm just digesting that as so carry on.
Yeah, the space between heaven and earth is not. Is it not like a bellows? We started on the same part. Empty and yet never exhausted, it moves and produces more. Too many words hasten failure, cannot compare to keeping to the void. Making a distinction just focuses on the point of non-separation, as well as neither living nor dying. Lao Tzu points to the space between heaven and earth. Non-sages, meaning us regular people, just to say for this point, think that the space between heaven and earth is between our heads and the universe, sky. Lao Tzu states it that it's like a bellows, empty and yet never exhausted. How then can it be between our heads and the universe? It is just a metaphor, it's a metaphor for all space in and around us, meaning we are encompassed with that non-discriminating pure substance, which is the origin of all things, and yet still not a place nor a direction. Thus, it is an origin with no origin, no beginning and no end. It's funny how he's speaking directly about the original nature, that thusness, that thus nature, the Tao that is all-pervasive, the purity that is all-pervasive. He goes on further, he says, too many words hasten failure, cannot compare to keeping to the void. You can say this means intellectual understanding will only hinder our true realization of this nature. We put a head on top of a head and make further notions about how it really is. It's likened to thinking about the idea of a void, an emptiness, but grasping to the idea itself. So Lao Tzu speaks about the conscious mind here, and means because of our false thinking, we cannot realize the true way of our original nature, the state of no state. It's like the state of no state. It's like you reach this realization, this state of this overall peace and oneness and wonderful connection between all things. But that state doesn't disappear, and you realize, oh, wait, that's just the way it originally was. And it's not temporary. It's always been there. Oh, my God. Basically, it's what we can say this is the fifth passage.
The comment about the space between heaven and earth being like a bellows too, you can almost see that from an alchemical perspective, right? I know some of the diagrams, like the Neijing too, I think they show the bellows operating in the stomach under the Danshan.
Right, and what that energy is all pervasive too. It's all encompassing as well. But when you cultivate it and you apply a good concentration to it, and you don't let your mind run off on daydreams or whatnot, it becomes much more nourishing, and it can never be exhausted. This is why some people who do cultivation in their 50s, 60s, they still look like they're 30. In the 30s, they still look like they're in their early 20s. It is also said that some people who have attained some state of enlightenment, or certain states of enlightenment, or have awakened their wisdom, still look very young as the day they were awakened. For example, if you awakened at the age of 25 and now you're 45, 46, you would still have a young face. Your body would manifest that kind of purity. Not all.
We should sell that on the home shopping channel.
Cultivate Qigong and you'll look young forever.
A lot of women would love that.
Women would love that. Yes, that's true. Moving on?
Moving on. So you want to go to chapter 6?
Chapter 6.
Alrighty. The Valley of Spirit, undying. It is called the mystic female. The gate of the mystic female is called the root of heaven and earth. It flows continuously, barely perceptible. Utilized, it is never exhausted.
Ooh, fun. This is going right to where we want to go to. Most of us want to go to. this fun stuff on cultivating energy now. There are many metaphors for the valley spirit, mystic female. So I'm not going to talk about those. Just going to talk about an explanation, and it may utilize the same idea. The valley spirit, it's referring to the energetic pathways between the hui yin all the way to the crown, the bai hui. The meeting of 100 points. Basically, a method of cultivating either yang or yin, and thus allowing that spiritual energy to be cultivated. He says the gate of the mystic female, we can say referring to the Huiyin point, root of heaven and earth, between the genitals and the anus. Yeah. It flows continuously, barely perceptible. Utilize it is never exhausted. It means that this energy, which naturally flows throughout the body, is no different from the original source energy, or in other words, our original nature. You see, the mind of no obstructions is a mind of purity. This is a mind or energy of no hindrances. It flows but doesn't flow. The body is what this energy vibrates with and radiates radiates through due to its level of consciousness or vibrational karmic level. We talk about that within the fifth passage briefly. So its capabilities are dependent on the person's mind state. It moves in the body, but you don't realize it or feel it. But if you sit in non-discriminative contemplation, you will be able to utilize it. Because it is this way, whether we believe or disbelieve, or feel it or not, it is said to be inexhaustible. When you apply the right contemplation to it, it can be utilized according to one's will and intent. And we can go into methods on how to do it, but then we'll just be here for another few hours.
Yeah. No, I always knew there was a sort of like an energetic reading that. I guess I never really fully grasped what it was, so I appreciate that commentary.
Perhaps it's this way, perhaps it's another way. Which one makes sense to you can be utilized for the same result. It's like you cook eggs, you scramble eggs one way, I scramble them another way. You add a certain flavor, I add another flavor, but we both can eat it, and we both get full. Chapter 7.
I'm at a loss for words. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Well, that was a quick one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Straight to the point.
Yeah.
Okay. So chapter 7. Heaven and earth are everlasting. The reason heaven and earth can last forever is that they do not exist for themselves. Thus, they can last forever. Therefore, the sages place themselves last, but end up in the front, are outside of themselves and yet survive. Is it not due to their selflessness? That is how they can achieve their own goals.
This whole piece points right to non-separation, non-discrimination, and virtuous behavior. Heaven and earth last forever because they do not exist for themselves. There is no being that is called heaven or earth, which exists just to please themselves. I'm heaven, I'm going to keep everything for me, and screw everybody else. Well, I'm earth, and I don't like people on here, so I'm just going to open up and kill you all. These exist because people, living beings, are said to exist. So no living beings, no heaven, no earth. It's just the karmic nature and level of vibration that creates heaven and earth. And if we go to the story of the Jade Emperor, before he reached his place as being the Jade Emperor, we can find stories on the deeds that being had done in the past. And then his rebirth, his blessings in rebirth, his blessings allowed or gave him the state of being as what he is and how we know him as today. Okay, so it's really pointing to good conduct, virtuous behavior, and cultivating non-discrimination. I mean, if you're sitting there doing your qigong practice or your internal cultivation or your alchemical cultivation, and you're trying to do any mixing or trying to do any compression or whatever it is that you want to do, and you're sitting there wondering when you're going to finish so you can go listen to a song you heard on the radio that you want to hear again, you're going to go hang out with your friends, you're not really going to get anywhere in your practice. So it's kind of like you got to apply a single-minded cultivation, concentration. Going further, therefore the sages place themselves last but end up in front. Sages place themselves last but end up first. This means that a sage knows there is no true separation and thus does things for everyone else, knowing there is no such thing as anyone else. Therefore the sage and everyone else do not exist, and he or she gains nothing and loses nothing when servicing others. With that state of mind, the desire to attain high levels of realized wisdom is attained. Their selflessness creates the merit and virtue which thrusts their vibrational level much higher than most. And thus they realize the fruit of their labor. That's how they can achieve their own goals. Is it not due to their selflessness? Oh, yes, it is.
I should point out that the actual the words Tao Te Ching would mean the way of virtue, right?
Yes. It doesn't mean the way
So
of
the
power, the way of the universe, but you could say the way of the universe, and to be in line with the way of the universe, you need to have a proper mind. You need good virtue.
yeah, people are seems they often forget the day or the Te
Yeah.
and focus mainly on the Tao.
Yeah, you can't
But
have a
you,
way if you don't have these things that allow you to be cultivating. Then there is no way of cultivating. Like if you want to go from New York to California, and you're like, I have no legs and I can't drive and I can't walk, I can't ride a bike. How the hell am I getting there? So the way is there, but you don't have the means to do it. Virtue, cultivation, is the arms and the legs. The way is there. You just need the arms and legs to do it. You won't get the way unless you do certain things. Like
and
the
or
student is
don't
ready, the
do.
teacher. Yeah, there you go. And if the student is ready, the teacher will appear, kind of thing. You don't go saying I'm the best and screw everyone else, and I don't like this. I say it this way. It's just that way, and then expect people, some virtuous person, to go up to you, or some person who has gold in their pocket, to say, "You're a nice person. I want to give this to you." No, no one's going to respect you. They'll respect you on the peripheral, on the superficial level, just because arguing with someone of that kind of mind state, is fruitless. It's pointless. They're not going to understand your principle. They're not going to understand anything um, intelligently or intellectually. And so you're arguing with a wall, and it just doesn't make sense to do that.
No,
So they just, like, go on your way, do what you do. It's totally fine. That's it. They don't even say you're an idiot. They don't even bother with you. They don't say you're just an arrogant fool. They'll probably say you're too arrogant. Well, they probably wouldn't even bother with you altogether. And if they do bother with you, they're using you to get what they want, because you can superficially give them what they're superficially looking for. And then most people sit there and go, oh, this person respects me. This person likes me. When I say something, that's just the way it is. And you know what? That's superficial, because if people knew the kind of the mannerism of such people, of such a person, they would not associate with them. And they would only for their own benefit, if anything. So you need virtue to cultivate. You need practice. You need to have that practice. Don't run away from, oh, what? I can't say the F word whenever I want? Well, yeah, you could. Generally, despite any laws out there, you could do whatever you want. But there's always an outcome for it.
Or you have these people that think, oh, I can just go and practice my form, or I can just, go and do this qigong practice and energize myself up, and then they walk out the door and act like a complete jerk to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. That's called
It's
走火入魔. Go the fiery path. 走火.
run, fire, enter, devil.
Enter devil. There you go. There you go. Enter the demonic states.
Okay, should we move along?
Move along. Moving on up.
All right, moving on up to the side. Chapter 8. The highest goodness resembles water. Water greatly benefits myriad things without contention. It stays in places that people dislike, therefore it is similar to the Tao. Dwelling with the right location, feeling with great depth, giving with great kindness, speaking with great integrity, governing with great administration, handling with great capability, moving with great timing. Because it does not contend, it is therefore beyond reproach.
That's a long one. Get some more coffee.
Yeah.
Well, this is good. Let's see here. This points to the posture of mind. It means understanding where the mind is, realizing its location, which is without location, no direction. Just realizing we're going to go right back to it, because Lao Tzu is saying in many different words the same thing to a degree, that original state of neither coming nor going. Okay, it's that original nature. Even the Buddha spoke of the original nature, and he used a different way. Lao Tzu is speaking of it here, and he used a different way. Confucius said the same thing, and he used a different way. We can go even further on who said what and how they did it too. to feel with great depth is not to be taken by your sense organs. Running around feeling, oh, I hear this, I see this, and grasping for sensations, grasping for sights, sounds, tastes, scents, feelings, thoughts. Okay? Giving with great kindness is to be selfless. Speaking with integrity is to not speak lies and to have merit in what you say. So here we go, talking about virtue, like you said before, Wulong. I almost thought I lost you there. I thought the connection cut off.
Every now and then I've got to train whatever that goes by, so I have to mute my microphone. So I'm still here.
Cool. So governing with great administration is to have others be as you wish yourself to be. That's great administration. Not power and strength at the barrel of a gun, or having people believe government is one way, or governing is one way, and society is one way, and just doing something totally underneath their ability to see, right underneath the shadows, working the other hand. One hand says, hey, here you go. The other hand goes, while you're doing that, I'm going to take this away. Runs around throughout the world in our governing channels. Handling with great capability is to take responsibility for one's actions of the body, mouth, and mind. Moving with great timing is to understand that, hey, this is going to be fun. Great timing does not mean a specific and exact time to make a motion. It means the great time as a metaphor, pointing to the 3 periods of time, past, present, future. And it's saying that these 3 periods of time do not exist. Moving means to understand not to be moved by the senses. Thus, when you move it as though you are not moving because you realize that the 3 periods of time have no bounds, have no origin, they are thus false. Right?
That's a profound reading of that line. I would have never thought of that myself.
Maybe I'm just crazy. And thus, so, you are not bound by the 3 periods of time, these views of a past, present, and future. You are free, truly, and only because there is no view of separation. This whole thing is pointing to the state of non-production, a state where there is nothing, but there is no distinction of there being nothing. As water, it is everywhere and does not discriminate as living beings do about the conditions of its quote-unquote dwelling. Because it does not contend, it is therefore beyond reproach. Because it does not contend, meaning not greedy, not attached, it is therefore of no view of self or others. It holds no ego, so there is nothing unpure about it. Ta-dang!
Should we go to chapter 9?
Okay, let's go to chapter 9.
Or did you want to carry on? That's up to you.
I don't want to keep carrying on because
thinking...
someone's going to fall asleep.
All right. Okay, chapter 9. Holding a cup and overfilling it cannot be as good as stopping short. Pounding a blade and sharpening it cannot be kept for long. Gold and jade fill up the room. No one is able to protect them. Wealth and position bring arrogance and leave disaster upon oneself. When achievement is completed, fame is attained. Withdraw oneself. This is the Tao of heaven.
This is so much fun. What do you think this is? What do you think one of the ways of this is? How is this going to be explained?
Oh boy. I feel like I'm the blade being sharpened blade that cannot be kept right now.
Well, let's point to 2 things.
I would just say desire for one thing,
Well, that's going to be part in there. It can be part in there. Let's look at these 2 things: cultivation of energy and cultivation of views. Cultivation of views here is the view of enough. We spoke about this earlier. Basically, not being taken by your senses, desire, you said that. Not attaching to experiences, not giving or wasting your energy by being distracted. So cultivation now. This points to cultivating the energy or the mind. When filling a cup with too much water, it spills out and wastes away. You can't drink the cup that fell on the floor unless you're extremely thirsty. Then you just lap it up, When filling it to just enough. You don't fill it all the way full, just enough to where when you move the cup, nothing spills. The water doesn't get wasted away. So basically, let's look at this aspect. When cultivating the dantian, do not overdo it by focusing and thinking so hard about the energy and where it should go. This taxes the mind and energy itself. It fails to reach the goal. It kind of like locks up your mind there. You're just focusing so hard, so much. Now, keep an intent there. Keep the mind intent on energy moving to where you wish it to go. And just be in a state of knowing that is what it will do. No need to focus so hard on the dantian and energy and its processes. When doing that hard focus and really applying a tense and overthinking mind to what you're cultivating, you may do too much and get temporary results, feeling good for a day or two or so, and then simply, don't have the state any longer. Just, like one day you're going 2 or 3 hours in practice, like, oh, I'm really going headstrong at it. And the next morning you wake up feeling so energized, so refreshed, you slept well, you feel really good. 2 or 3 days later, goes away. And then you're like, oh, I got to get back to that again. But you're so hyped up on trying to get back to that good state, you feel wrong because you don't get it. Like, oh, I didn't get the same feeling. Almost like when people take drugs, the first high they're like, oh, this is so wonderful. Ooh, all spaced out. And then they go for the second high and they're like, I want to get the same high from the first time. And they keep going and going and going and they're not getting there.
What about the golden jade fill up the room?
Haha. Golden jade fill up the room. No one is able to protect them. Wealth and position bring arrogance and leave disasters upon oneself. Fun stuff. When doing too much and getting sensations, remember these are superficial. They are on the surface and something everyone wants to have and feel. Because it is rare that people would cultivate the way, any sensation or any state or any quote unquote like a realization accomplishment is so valuable. It's like golden jade. The energy cultivates strong at first, leaving one feeling good and fresh, like we just spoke of before. But then it's wasted away due to lack of patience and attachment to self. Patience. So I want to get it again, so let me go back and practice. But practice for your 3 or 4 hours you did the first time. You practice for 2.5 hours maybe. You're like, oh, I didn't get this, I didn't get that, or I have to do this. You're really getting locked in there. It's having it's like having so much money, and one, thinks highly of themselves. And with that state of mind, they'll live in a state of greed and arrogance, eventually lead them to do foolish things, causing problems for themselves. Just like cultivating energy and jumping up and down when one has a state or sees a ghost, or hears others' thoughts for a quick moment or a few times. They feel high and mighty, feel accomplished. And in truth, it's really a small attainment, nothing to be excited about. So grasping it only brings problems. So it's saying, the golden jade it's likened to the cultivation of your mind, your cultivation of your energy. When you're accomplishing, when you're getting along the way, don't go throwing it out there going, oh, I got this, or I feel this, and don't go grasping to it going, I need to get this, I need to get that, this. You're going to waste away what you already had. And then if you never had it, you're going to be in debt to it because you're going to be expending so much energy to it.
I was just almost wondering if the golden jade filling up the room could symbolize the movement of qi and shen into the upper dantian or something like that too.
Sure it can. I mean, we can go much more deeper in that too. One aspect we want to go into controlling our mind when we're practicing. And then when we go to the more alchemical methods of it, then we can start going deeper into why is it called gold? Why is it called jade? It's levels of vibration that change. So colors are equivalent to the vibrational level of things. When a certain thing reaches a high vibration, it changes its color. When it's more pure, the color becomes more stronger, brighter. And even further refined, it has a different color too. Okay, but he hasn't, in this, he's not talking exactly the method straight up. He's letting people go through the superficial aspect to get to the semi-deep aspect, which thus nourishes the field.
That's what I was going to say. You can read this on so many levels. It's fascinating.
Because he's not going to just plainly give out the methods for cultivation straight up there that attain the way, because you got idiots out there who want to hurt people. Forget that. I don't want to be an immortal. I just want to get these powers, and I'm going to go right into government, and I'm going to get whatever I want. No one's going to take me out. That's what they're going to do. So he goes, you know what? No. Why don't you first cultivate the societal level, cultivate the superficial level, how you act with people, because that's going to nourish you on the semi-deeper level, which is, we'll call it a second level, a medium level, which goes into nourishing the lower level, the ground, the mind ground, nourishing that aspect so you can have the conditions necessary to actually cultivate and probably meet somebody who's attained, who's realized, a wise advisor. Let's go further.
Okay, cool.
When achievement is completed, fame is attained, withdraw oneself. This is the Tao of heaven. This whole thing here means when you attain the fruit of your labor, whatever it may be in cultivation, you are first in the world. But completion here means there is no regressing. So if you find yourself getting a little bit ahead, and then a few days later you go back on what you cultivated away from, you didn't get anywhere really. That's why some people go, oh, I got it. I touched it. I got an epiphany. I'm enlightened now, And then a few days later, they go back and do the things they did before that they were supposed to be enlightened to, Be it maybe they got enlightened to the way of suffering and they were eating meat and all of a sudden they got in images and feelings and hit a state of what the animal had gone through. And they realize the mannerism of conditions and understand how suffering goes and how suffering comes, finds the impermanence in certain things and awakens to that principle, but their cultivation hasn't been fully tempered 100% to completion. So 2 days, 3 days later, they end up going back after they say, I don't want to eat meat anymore. I'm going to be vegetarian. They go back to ordering, their hamburger or whatever and forget totally what happened. So let's see here. So you have attained, looking to having attained a complete and pure wisdom. You want to really get to the state where you've first in the world means you've awakened. And it's not that you are the first person in the whole world to ever do that, but in your world and all those you have affinities with, you are first. But there is no first and second and third, because the next person who attains their realization of enlightenment or realization of the Tao is their first also. Because there is no such thing as anyone second or third out there in the world.
The comment about withdrawing oneself, I can almost see people having problems with that, because you would think if you've had an achievement, you've become enlightened or you've become wise, wouldn't it be better to immerse yourself into society and help others rather than withdraw?
Withdraw doesn't mean don't help and don't get involved with people. Withdraw means take away your ego.
Okay.
Who's
so
withdrawing?
Withdraw from, okay, that makes sense, more sense.
Right. So in this case, when it is completed, there's no need to run around telling everyone what you did and how you are, because it would only waste your efforts. I'm enlightened, I can help you. I'm wise, With that, if you did realize the fruit of your labor, and feel the impulse to tell people, then you really didn't realize the fruit of anything yet. You only had a little bud growing out and got excited. Ooh, look, a little leaf popped out. Ooh, yay, I got a plant. No, you got a little leaf. And the way of heaven, meaning the way of this non-discriminating compassion, thus nature, does not boast. It simply gives without making a big deal about its abilities to do so. So here, withdraw doesn't mean run away and go hide up in the mountains. It means, what is it, or who is it that has attained? If there is an I that has attained or realized anything, then you haven't really realized anything, and you're going around saying or feeling living in that state of, I attained realization, I'm going to go out and help people. There's still an attachment to an I, a self. Okay, so there's nothing withdrawn at that point. But it's withdrawing means putting out, cutting off.
Withdrawing your ego, I guess.
Yes,
maybe.
Cutting off views of that, so you can actually be free to do such things. And when other people see that, they think they attained it. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. Excuse me. We were talking about, around my neighborhood, there's a lot of martial artists, and some people wanted me to go out there and touch hands, do some push hands with some of these teachers. And I say, no, that's okay. And the teacher also didn't want to. But then the students kept pushing the teacher to do so. So finally he agreed, but I didn't agree. And then finally, the student said, the teacher's here waiting for you. Don't keep him waiting. I said, all right, fine, you know. So I went over and I put my hands, we touched hands, and I did some things, and I seen his reaction was like a, huh? And I stopped. Nothing big. It was just upon touching hands, do a few things, and he's like, huh? But he didn't say that. His eyes, the way his energy felt, I know he had to stare like, okay, we're going to get someplace here. Like, I got to be prepared. So he puts his hand on his chest. I put my hand behind my back, one hand behind my back, and he has both hands in front of him. So we're playing, and then I just take everything away. I just totally be like, you do, I go. You come, I follow. You know, it's like whatever you're giving me, I go with it. If you strike me, you strike me. If you don't strike me, you don't strike me. As you move back, that's how I'm coming in. You know, that's what I was giving him the idea. And then the student says, so what do you think? You know, I said, the guy's very good. You know, he's really good and whatnot. And he has skill. I was like, he's very good, very good. And, you know, he comes up to me and we talk. And then I just start asking plain questions. You know, oh, I didn't know you can do this. I didn't know you can do that. Now I know you can. But this is their place, not my place. You know? So you take away the I. And what happens? We become good friends. And then, yet he also believes that there is nothing else to me, only sees what he can conceive of. So he says, oh, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. Oh, so how do I do that? You know, you didn't move this, you didn't move the quad, the hips this way, you didn't move the waist that way. I said, really? You can do that? I didn't know you can do that. And so, but it creates an atmosphere of friendship and community where, on one hand, he'll think of me one way. On the other hand, I have developed a good community of friends because of what I did. So I took away the I. And now
you could have went in there arrogantly and tried to
not good.
Throw him around.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
That's not good to do. There was no aggression. He asked me, why did you put your hand behind your back? You should keep your hand in front of you because that's how you can protect yourself if I came out with an elbow. I said, I knew you wouldn't do that. I knew you wouldn't come out with two hands. I knew you wouldn't go aggressive on me. One. Number two, I was not planning to do that with you. So I put my hand behind my back to let you know that I'm not the aggressor here. That I came to just listen to you and listen to how your body moves and to exchange a little motion with you. Nothing more, nothing less. And he just like, what? He just said, what?
It's funny because I just seen a Wing Chun video a couple days ago where there was a couple of Sifus that were touching hands. I think you guys call it Chi Sao, maybe? Does that sound right?
Chi Sao, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the masters is getting pretty aggressive with the other guy, and the other guy's getting real ticked off, and he's like, get away from my face, get away from my face. The guy kept going for his face, and all of a sudden he smacked him right in the face, and I thought they were going to kill each other. It's like, that's why even touch hands if it's going to turn into that?
Because they're only understanding one level of martial arts. They're not going into the exceptional levels, which is more, not internal cultivation, this is more cultivation, virtue, and cultivation of righteousness. There's no need to prove one's skill in the martial arts when there's no reason to have such things exist. Meaning, no one's trying to kill me. I should have no reason to put my hands up on someone. If I'm going to exchange with somebody, it's just simply that. I move, they move on me, I move with them. I don't have to punch the person. I don't need people to think I'm good. Actually, I make people believe I am terrible. The people who've known me for years assume that I'm just really terrible. And whether I'm good or not is irrelevant. The fact is, if someone believes I suck, I want them to think I suck even more. If someone believes I'm good, I want them to think I'm just mediocre. Someone says I'm really a good person, fine. Someone says I'm really a bad person, fine. But when there's a need in the aspect of someone trying to hurt you in a situation that doesn't have anything to do with, oh, let me see how your skill is. Who cares? Who gives a hell about that? If I'm in the street and someone jumps me from behind, that's when it exists. Any other time, martial skill does not exist to me. So my Wing Chun that I practice, the Xing Yi that I practice, the Bagua, Taiji Chuan, Qigong, whatever, It exists when there's a situation, the conditions arise for it. Other than that, I am not a martial artist. That's really how it is. And when it exists, there's no I anyway in there. It's just, this is what's happening, this is what's going to be worked on, and that's all there is to it. So when you have people doing those things, they're not withdrawing. They're giving outflows. They're putting out more. And they're trying to get something that's very superficial. Tao Te Ching is saying, get rid of the superficiality.
I guess just be humble, right?
Humble. Learn virtue. That's important. You're not getting anywhere without it. And it doesn't mean on the superficial level you'll be virtuous and getting what you want because it benefits you. You do whatever you want. You say whatever you want. And you treat people the way you feel you should treat them. No. It means on every aspect, you be virtuous. If you're a good person to other people, you be a good person to the people around you closest. If you're a good person to your family, you're a good person to people who are not your family, and you treat them like family. When I see people who do some wrong things out here, when I practice with them and they're doing things and they go, oh, this wouldn't work or that wouldn't work. And I go, okay, great, no problem. I don't care. There's no reason to say, well, my technique is better than yours. Who cares?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really matter if people see that you are better than anyone else or better than them. For what? To put you on a pedestal? That kind of respect is empty.
It's just going to nurture antagonism in a lot of people. Not everybody. I mean, some people are above that, but there's a lot of people that if you confront them like that, or if you take up an antagonistic posture to them, it's just going to feed into that on the other end.
It's not the way of cultivation or the way of heaven in the aspects of what we're talking about here. It's not the way. I mean, the overall way of a true nature, that is not the way. Because nature doesn't discriminate on that. When a tree is thirsty and it's an ugly looking tree, it still drinks. when two dogs are, walking in the street and one is limp on the other leg and the other one doesn't, they're still eating. If they find food, they still eat.
Okay,
let's finish up.
Let's go to the final chapter for today.
Yes, chapter 10.
Chapter 10. Okay. In holding the soul and embracing oneness, can one be steadfast without straying? In concentrating the energy and reaching relaxation, can one be like an infant? In cleaning away the worldly view, can one be without imperfections? In loving the people and ruling the nation, can one be without manipulation? In the heavenly gates opening and closing, can one hold to the feminine principle? In understanding clearly all directions, can one be without intellectuality? Excuse me. Bearing it, rearing it, bearing it without possession, achieving without arrogance, raising without domination. This is called the mystic virtue.
Ooh, fun.
There's definitely some cultivation tricks in here.
Yeah, let's see if we get to that. In holding the soul and embracing oneness, can one be steadfast without straying? This can mean, can one be diligent enough in working hard to realize their goal, whether it's cultivation or whatnot, in keeping to the principle of their practice and not hurting their virtue? This is cultivation. Basically, in order to cultivate to attain the fruit, there is a fundamental standard of how to cultivate and conduct oneself. People usually run from rules, you're saying that before. That goes to show their lack of willpower and understanding of the principles of practice.
Hello.
Hey, I have a coworker coming in.
No problem.
So when they hear, stay away from ejaculation. Oh, no! Stay away from sex. Oh, no! What do you mean I can't eat the foods I like or drink the drinks I enjoy? Forget it. I won't do it. That's what most people say. In concentrating the energy and reaching relaxation, can one be like an infant? Relaxation here does not mean to feel no stress in the body. That's just a superficial relaxation. It really means to be free from false thinking. An infant has no false thinking because its intellectual chatter hasn't been cultivated yet. They are very, very much in the now, so to say. When they are hungry, they cry. They're tired, they sleep. Bathroom time, they do their thing, and so on and so forth until they are taught to be politicians and discriminations arise, as well as greed, anger, and ignorance. So being like an infant means to be without discriminations. This is relaxation in cultivating energy, to not be taken by sensation and emotion, thoughts, and attachment. So in your cultivation, that's a fundamental principle.
With the line in holding the soul and embracing the oneness, would I guess maybe I would almost want to put the word spirit instead of soul in there. I'm thinking Shen. Um, could you not interpret that alchemically too, like in holding onto your Shen or cultivating Jing into Qi and then into Shen?
Well, right, then how would we do that? If we have false thinking, that will not be occurring. If you
True.
if you have desire, well, we all have desire. I have a desire, or the cultivator will have the desire to attain. I want to cultivate Jing Qi Sen. I want to enter the Tao. I want to realize this true state of, our true nature, original nature. Okay, but then go along, do masturbation, ejaculate all over the place, have sex all over the place, do things that are counterproductive to reaching their goal. They're not getting it. So you have to keep the fundamental principle to actually go and cultivate Jing Qi Shan.
Okay.
So we go on.
Yeah, let's move on.
In cleaning away the worldly views, can one be without imperfections? When we cultivate the mind of non-discrimination, we find many faults in ourselves. It is a process we must endure, and a practice of taking responsibility for our actions of body, mouth, and mind. Who can endure the mirror which reflects one's evil deeds? Evil is thought to mean violence, aggression, violence. But here it means everything we are attached to which pulls our energy outwards instead of inwards. That which steals your energy and takes away from your core, that's not good. That could be thieves, trying to steal things from you. So you'll think your desires are good, your thoughts are good, and like, I can do what I please. Mistaking a thief for your son, we say in cultivation, It's like you welcome your son in the house, and he can eat all the food he wants. He could take as much money as he wants to a degree. He could do pretty much anything as though he is family and totally familiar with everything. But a thief comes in and they walk around quietly, sneaking around, slowly taking things here and there without you noticing. That's what your desires do. That's what false thinking does. It takes away from your essence, takes your virtue away. That's evil. Let's go further. In loving the people and ruling the nation, can one be without manipulation? Oh, man. I don't know. Am I going to go to jail for talking about this one?
But we can easily apply this to American politics, I guess.
I guess, yeah. In regards to servicing others, we'll make it simple. And being in positions of power, we find ourselves greedy for more. And thus we become ambitious. And with that kind of ambition, look to climb on conditions and hurt others to get higher and higher. And this part talks on the view of separation, which is the view of superiority, a process we go through when getting what we want, which is a view that must be put down as well. So I guess we kept it very simple here.
I would say in this line, the part about loving the people, I don't think is very applicable to most of our rulers. I think they just love power. They love power, not people. And
well, they love to have people so they can have power over them.
True. Yeah.
That loving is not a healthy one. It's more of an obsession.
An abusive relationship.
Pretty much. And when you try to divorce out of it, all hell breaks loose.
They take everything you've got.
Pretty much. Oh man,
won't dwell on that one because that's pretty self-explanatory.
Pretty much, yeah. We can go on and that'd be funny. Let's go on. In the heavenly gates opening and closing, can one hold to the feminine principle? This points to developing concentration power when cultivating energy, and we are sometimes taken by what we feel, see, and vision with our senses. The feminine principle is non-doing or non-discrimination. It's as though there is nothing, total darkness because we are not thinking. Yet, without non-thinking, there is a brightness which manifests. If this is grasped to, then there is action. Or better yet, attachment to the relative expression of yin and yang. So one becomes a catalyst for these ebbs and flows and loses concentration on their practice. So the feminine principle is this non-action, this non-doing, this non-discrimination, a state that there is nothing and that there is not nothing. It's
the heavenly gate from an alchemical perspective. Would that be the back of the head? The jade pillow.
I believe it would be the Mingmen, the lower back.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so if we're having crazy thoughts or attachments, or we're not fully getting on with our good concentration power, working the function of these specific areas would become fruitless. Short-term feelings of accomplishment, which just lead to more false thinking. If we want to go deeper into the alchemical idea of heavenly gates opening and closing, we would again be here for a little while longer.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we can probably skip that for today.
Let's go a little further. In understanding clearly all directions, can one be without intellectuality? This could be really, really cool. All directions can mean the cardinal directions, but means actually all methods of cultivation. When understanding the myriad expedient practices, we fall victim to our intellectual thinking and we assume we got it, when actually we never had it to begin with. This part speaks on worldly wisdom versus inherent non-discriminate wisdom, which is all pervasive and is the knowing of all things without a view of a self and others. So all directions can mean north, south, east, west, and everything in between, and up and below, or the center. But here it's meaning methods of cultivation. This way we can go, that way we can go. I can understand this method, I can understand that method. I have my views on this. I'm intellectually set in about 15 million different types of methods. But accomplishment in any of them has not been fruitful.
I think too, maybe it points to like overanalyzing things, maybe.
Being very studious, only cultivating the intellectual aspect, but not actually cultivating the concentration aspect or the mental application to what you're doing. Meditations.
Having 100 books on meditation, but never actually sitting down for 10 minutes to meditate.
There you go. There you go. I heard hear someone say, if a book of meditation was too thick, it's a useless book. And I turned around and I laughed. I said, have you no clue? He goes, the book should be small. Tell the method and get to the point. I said, no, it's impossible. Because to get to the point would mean that it has to cut through everyone's false thinking right away. That means they have to have had the capacity to understand exactly the principles being spoken in about a 3-page book on meditation, which in our world is next to nil. Doesn't mean bad. It just means it's not happening. A meditation book that has commentary, discussion, examples, history, some culture to it, lets you understand in various ways what one sentence of application of the mind is to be doing. That's very important. But if it just goes on and rambling, it's not too good. But meditation book should have some commentary to help people understand, explain, speak on their level.
Maybe if you explain it, 50 different ways, maybe 50 different people might find a different explanation that actually suits them, right?
There you go. That's expedient means. That's what it means, right? But you also have to have had the experience to be able to do such things, have the skill and means to do such things. So you have to have practice behind you. Cool. Let's go on. I think this is the last part. The last part. Bearing it, rearing it, bearing without possession, achieving without arrogance, raising without domination. This is called the mystic virtue. This is going to be fun. Excuse me. And it's going to be short. This whole part points directly to the mark of no marks, a state of non-production of expedient teachings. Let's think far off into the land of Chan, basically saying what the sixth patriarch of the Chan school wrote in his verse answering or refuting Shen Xiu. Bodhi is fundamentally without any tree. The bright mirror stand is not the bright mirror is also not a stand. Fundamentally, there is not a single thing. Where could the dust alight? Bearing it, rearing it, bearing without possession, achieving without arrogance, raising without domination. This is called the mystic virtue. Bearing it, rearing it, bearing without possession. Then who is bearing and rearing? Achieving without arrogance, raising without domination. Achieving without arrogance means there's no one who achieved. Arrogance means I got something. I recognize a me, and I recognized I had come to something that I can attain, that there is something attainable. Raising without domination. Excuse me. Which basically is pointing to putting yourself out there to grasp control, to grasp fame, praise. That's dominating people's minds. So you're putting yourself out there and you're asking, if I don't have all these eyes, if there is no I, an I who bared, an I who reared, an I who achieved, then there obviously is nothing that I'm controlling, and there's nothing needed to be controlled. That is secret.
From an alchemical perspective, too, the bearing and rearing would seem to point to the immortal fetus.
Cutting out discriminating thinking, excuse me, cutting out the views of a self, you can actually cultivate that and go through the toiling and the nourishing of that kind of ground to cultivate the immortal fetus.
Yeah, again, I don't want to get too far down that road because that's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
But I just thought maybe I'd point it out.
Yes. I mean, bearing it, rearing it. I mean, we're going. If I have a mind that I'm cultivating, wiping the mirror clean, then it gets dusty again, wiping it again here and there. I'm just gradually going along the path, and I'm eventually may come to my goal. But then when you've coming to that point and you realize, hey, who is bearing and rearing? I don't know anything. Who achieved? I don't know what this thing is. Who's going out there? Who's really standing up and who's really gaining something? Oh, I understand now. None of that was true. That was just the phase. Oh, that's just the things in my mind I have to cut out. I realized the origin, cut it out. Now I got my full-on path in cultivation.
Okay, well, we're running pretty late here. I think we're at a little over an hour and a half. So did you have any?
All I want to say is this is just, you can say my view. If someone says this is just my view on it, someone's going to say, I know someone's going to turn around and go, oh, he's mixing Buddhism with Taoism in here. You know what? That's okay too. You can think that all you want. Those who have affinities with the way this is being explained today and in the future will find it useful. Those who don't will not find it useful. Those who don't find it useful, just understand there are those who will find it useful. And saying it's not going to be working for them is really useless or pointless. Because what means working for a person? What means this works for them or this works for you? What does that mean? That means it fits to the capacity on the level of what you understand. It fits for your level of understanding. That's what it means working for you.
I'll compare it to an Asian fusion type restaurant.
Funny.
You go someplace that you don't. The restaurant doesn't only have to serve Chinese food or only have to serve Japanese food. Sometimes it can serve both.
Yep. And in New York, we have a lot of these kind of fusion restaurants: Chinese, Mexican food, Japanese food, all in one place.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
excellent.
I think we should probably call it a wrap.
Sounds good.
It's quite interesting for me. I'm sort of a geek when it comes to the Tao Te Ching, but hopefully other people can benefit from it as well.
Fun.
So thanks, Lynn. As usual, I will quote the final chapter of the Tao Te Ching, not Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, and we will do a commentary on that when we get to it.
Okay, thank you for listening to Speeding Means with Lynn A. Wan, Time Monk Radio. Please be sure to join us next week as we discuss using adversity as an expedient mean. To quote the final chapter of the Tao Te Ching, the sage does not accumulate. The more he assists others, the more he possesses. The more he gives to others, the more he gains.